3, 2, 1, go!
R6A1 is a good level, and that's because they had fixed the enemy distribution system. If you don't know and you're a newcomer, on the previous rundowns you will have when you enter a zone, you will have a chance that all the enemies will spawn in a single room, which makes the difficulty of even the first levels completely asinine, and it will just throw you off guard. They added a progression text on the left side telling you hints on what to do in the level, which is great since now you're not gonna be as lost as before. But now, since the level is fine, is there anything bad with it?
Miles, get in.
Do you remember me?
No, I don't. Now shut up, Schaefer. Oh my god, he's gonna keep talking over and over again, isn't he? Oh my god, scan's going super slow. Please get me out of here. Why did you put yourself in the terminal this time, you hoe? As you can see, they have forgotten that the lore is supposed to be, scattered around terminals, and you will go and be like, oh, I found the log of Schaefer, Nah, they just put it on this door and slap a team scan that's twice as long. You have to be forced to be hearing all that shit. And that's on every time you play the level. It's not like you do it once and then it moves to a terminal or something, depending on host. Nah, every time you replay the level, it's gonna be there. You're gonna sit there listening to Schaefer for like a solid 20 to 30 seconds before you grab the matter wave projector and have the sweet release of leaving the zone. So yeah, R6A1 is a good level. It's well made, and apart from Schaefer caressing your ears for like 2 team scans worth of scan, then it's not bad at all. It teaches you the basics, all the fundamentals from stealth and loud gameplay. There are no scouts, but that's not really an issue since this run is supposed to be the most accessible for people. It's supposed to be for the masses, so it's fine as it is.
Telemetry online. Wave stabilizers.
Check.
Temporal regulators.
Good to go.
Quantum tethering.
Secured and locked.
Frequency modulators.
Low standard deviation. We are good to go.
Mission team.
Voice command, this is security operative Bishop requesting EF-01 clearance.
Miles, get in.
Clearance has been granted. EF-01 is operational. You may proceed, Dr. Stokes.
Thank you, Sergeant. Chrono. Start the mission.
R6B1 is a heavy hitter because it introduces a new enemy variant, the flying shooter, while keeping it cinematic, which is super cool in my honest opinion. The level is short, which is a good thing, and the only bad thing, if I can even call that, is that the introduction to the scout is uneventful as looking paint dry. So yeah. R6B2 is a simple level. You gotta reach your point B, but there's some bullshit in between that you gotta deal with. And what's the bullshit? Fog. There's a lot of verticality in the level. You go up to get out of the fog, you go down to get into the fog where you're doing the alarms. It's really good when it comes to the main only. But the bad part is the secondary, because apparently it looks and it feels unfinished. It's like they make zone 225 completely fine, but zone 224 they just randomly generated it and just forgot about it. The zone is so small, they spawn literally right next in the door in front of you. And if you know terminal uplink spawns, they spawn in the same zone as you. They do follow the 2 rooms away rule, but in the same zone, not overall around you, which makes this alarm quite chaotic if you don't have C-foam at all. And I don't really understand why they couldn't just reseed this part of the level, because I honestly don't see the problem of them doing that. The error escape sequence is really fun. The fact you have to go through like zone infected areas and then you just have to remember the room layout so you can avoid it is really fun. But it's just a simple level. I think the final blood tour could have been harder with 2 hybrids like a standard blood tour, but my main concern is the zone 224. Like, why they seeded it in such a way, or they generated it in such a way that it is like that. Because they could have just literally re-rolled the entire zone and be done with it, but they just left it that way for some reason. Our 6C1 is a special level, and we're gonna touch on 3 main topics in here. The air alarm is extremely good. They force them to spawn at the drop zone so they can push you into the zone that you're going in to shut down the alarm, which is brilliant. I'm so happy they did that, because usually before, when air alarms were different, you can have a forward spawn, you can have a back spawn, you can have a side zone, you can have them split into 2. It was such a messed up thing, and it made things overly complicated, and I'm just happy to see that they can do air alarms correctly, or they can script them, which is such a nice quality of life addition in my opinion. The survival aspect of the mission, which is the flyer section, is not really that bad. Kinda just running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and you try your best to not get hit. The first one is like 50 seconds, then the next one is 2 minutes, I think, and it's not that bad because you can just run around the whole place and nobody can touch you pretty much, as long as you're strafing a little bit. But yeah, it's not that crazy. Now, the main juice of this level is the traveling scan, and that thing is amazing. It's a chef kiss. It's just 10 out of 10 level. Fuck you. Also, little disclaimer, I was gonna talk about the lore being in your face, but if I'm gonna start talking about that, then on every mission story it's gonna be the same thing of me going, oh, the lore is in your face. They play in really awkward situations where you're often talking to your team, but why they're not on a terminal, you know. So I'm just gonna put that disclaimer over here in the middle of the video, because I don't want every mission story to go like, oh, the whole level is cool, but the fucking lore is in your face. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Our 6C2 has this gimmick in which you put a cell in, and then the fog rises, and you gotta put a command in the terminal to activate the filtration system to remove the fog, which is pretty cool. The whole level itself is just like an adventure, pretty straightforward, not really that interesting. It's just a couple of blood thirsts and that's it. But the extreme though, the extreme makes it chaotic as hell. The extreme is the one thing that makes this level hard, because not only do you gotta do a big S1 scan, which is probably the only sustained scan in the entire rundown right now, but after that you gotta pick up a cargo and move a turbine, a cell, and the cargo while you have a 4 hybrid air alarm going out your back, which is crazy, and you have to push through the mother zone, which is even crazier. The extreme makes this level bump a tier, quotation mark, in a way when it comes to difficulty, because not only you are like pressure time wise, but you're pressure resource wise, because you cannot really hang out too much with those 4 hybrids going over and over and over to you. So it's a really good level with the extreme enabled. This is what our 5v4 should have been since the beginning. I don't understand why they slapped these new mechanics on a B tier when they're supposed to be on a C tier, and this is the best way they could put off the Cis Purge objective. This is basically a clear a path objective, but with a timer on top of it, and it's pretty cool. The fact that the level doesn't stop you from going fast is a nice addition. You don't have to wait for any doors pretty much if you're going at a steady pace, and you have more than enough time to finish the extreme, which you have to carry cells after you've done the overload. And the overload is kind of a boring objective, just a big team scan, and you kind of get the waves from the main objective over and over and over again until you're done with the scan. You can stealth past the tank, or you can kill them, whichever you want, and it's just a solid level. Like you have to speedrun, you have to run. The only issue that you might run into is that if you don't manage your stamina, you can really get fucked over. But you just have to slow walk for like 3 seconds before regaining your stamina back. So it's not that big of a deal. Our 6D1 is unique as hell, not only because we fight a proper boss that looks like a weird looking bean, but because we have multiple side objectives in the same layer, which is unique to this level only. One of the side objectives is a reactor, just like our 1C1 or our 5P1 if you're a newer player, and it's chaotic as hell. It's a straight line, but there's so many things coming at you at the same time. From waves of strikers and shooters to big guys, hybrids and flyers, and then at the end of it, a tank fight, which is honestly, if you're not prepared, you're gonna get your ass whooped. I really do like this reactor because of the amount of enemy variants that there is on the waves, so you're not fighting the same thing over and over and over again, which is really cool on each code of the reactor, and it's a lot of fun. I wish there were big charges, so that would make the reactor a lot scarier than it is. The secondary objective from the main objective is a command terminal to remove fog from the bottom of the new tile that they have in there. It's extremely fun because you have two options. You can either fog dive, have one guy fog dive and bring a turbine in so you can transfer the team to the next area, or you can jump on the server racks and pretend that you're playing the floor is lava, which is a lot of fun when playing with the right people. But to get to the terminal you have to go through an alarm and 5 scouts, which is not really that bad when you have spear, to be honest. The boss fight itself is cheesy, like super cheesy, and I love it. Like aesthetically, like how the fuck are we fighting this thing? Does that thing, the thing doesn't even move his mouth and it's just going ah, and it's just like, oh how? Now gameplay wise, the fight itself is not really that crazy. Just bubble pop, you retreat back to your centric, kill the flyers, you push in, you pop another bubble, and you do that 5 times in a row. And it's supposed to be like a movie fight, pretty much. Not really supposed to be like a serious, skillful fight between you and the thing. The thing is like 300 meters, so it doesn't make any sense for it to be like that. Because if we talk about, realistic scenarios, like that thing could just crush us with his sheer chunkiness and kill everybody. So yeah. D2 is an exploration level which you have to extract the data from terminals. You can choose to go in whichever zone you want. Since every zone you have to go have a terminal with the command available. That just depends on what type of difficulty you want. If you want to go for the hardest one, you would go to the 5 charger scout room, which is a pain in the ass to deal with because there's speeders everywhere. And then you got the class 3 alarm with chargers. Or you can go and do the traversing travel scan, then go to the mother zone or do our error alarm. And there's a lot of decisions you can make. The level itself is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of difficulty spikes here and there, and you with scattergun you can just fucking one-shot the modders, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now the extreme layer of this level is the one that caused a little bit of controversy, because it had a class 5, no sorry, had a class 4 that was labeled as a class 5 alarm that spawned flyers, but the flyer alarm kind of behaved like a search wave, and you will have spawn cap flyers all over the place, and you didn't even finish the second set by that time of the alarm, which made holding a little bit too difficult. And people just spam sentries, or you have to get lucky with the circle distributions on the sets. So in the patch they hit the alarm with a nerf so hard that they might as well just remove it, or straight up just replace it with something else, because right now it's a joke of an alarm for the tier that it is right now. This is a D tier, extreme, and it spawns 2 enemies at a time. Like, it's just like, why even? Just slap a team scan and let me get the code or whatever. Like, Jesus Christ. The corrupt terminals are 3 sets, so you basically banter with each other like X02, Kite, Y02, Poop. So you pretty much do that for like a minute, and the whole layer is done. So, but it's chargers only, so if you don't see from and mine some of those doors, it's gonna be really tricky to defend, especially when you're by yourself defending. Hey guys, I had this weird dream. One of us touched a scout tentacle. Yeah, just like that. How you knew? What? D3 is a fucking gun list, if I'm being honest. You shut down a reactor in overload to then go to main and turn on a reactor, but who gives a shit at this point? You fought a weird looking burrito 2 levels ago. Now the overload is super easy in the sense that it's just simple. It's shadow central pretty much. Everything you're gonna shoot there is either a flyer or a shadow, and that's pretty much it. After you're done shutting down the reactor, you trigger an error alarm to get a bullhead key. After that, you can send one guy or split 2 and 2 outside the respawn room to turn off the error alarm. It's a level that splits the player up, which is pretty cool. And after that, you pretty much work your way into the reactor on main. After getting access to main, you do another error alarm, which is placed the same as the overload. 3 defend the room that the shadows are coming in, the other one goes deactivated. After that, you go into the reactor, you do it. And the unique thing about these reactors, you basically speed running it, so you don't get covered in fog by code 5. And once you finish code 5, you have the fog lower. And that's where the next thing happens, the next speed run happens. You go and do extreme. And extreme is basically pull the room simulator. If you see a scout, you just snipe it. That's it. You don't think twice about it, you just shoot it. You gotta rush because there's a search wave after those 15 minutes that you have. And afterwards, you just go back to spawn and extract before the timer runs out. I will put D3 as a classic because of how well designed it is and how much teamwork the level has. So yeah, it's out there with the best. Ooh, long-range flashlight. What the fuck? Nah, nobody likes our 2v4. Get me out of here. Alright, boys, I'm back. What did I miss? Nah, for real though, what the hell happened? I was in R1. Every last level of a run-on is usually a culmination of all the things that you had learned throughout all the levels that you've done. The first part of D4 is especially the hardest one, because you have to deal with this super annoying error alarm with flyers going all over the place, and you have to do the class 4 search, which is probably the hardest search until now because of how close quarter it is. I've heard that you can get them to break 2 doors at the same time, but I've never been lucky with that, so usually a sentry setup is good for this search, but it's still one of the hardest part of the level just by itself before you proceed to the next area. The other crescendo event is a moving charger alarm. You have to get the key in the charger infested zone before that. The alarm itself can be troublesome depending on where they spawn. Thankfully, the room itself is where the scan leads you, have a lot of choke points for you to use. After you're done with that alarm, you grab the data cube and they send you to the other dimension, in which is a heavy stealth section in fog, and you pretty much gotta save some fog propellers from the previous dimension to go into this dimension. It's so trippy. You gotta do a class 5 alarm before reaching the last data cube, and you're pretty much done with everything. Once you return back to your dimension, you gotta trigger an air alarm that spawns search waves after search wave every like 30 seconds, and you have to make your escape to extraction, which is pretty intense. And I just love how well designed this map is. The fact that you're jumping from between levels that look the same but behave and play differently is completely unique, and I hope they keep delivering on this type of level design. So where would I put Rundown 6? Well, it's not as hard obviously as Rundown 5, 4, 2, which is considered the hardest ones, and it doesn't make any sense to complain about the 1.0 release, because the game is supposed to be selling, right? You're living early access, like you're not supposed to make it super hard. They changed their stance of being like super hardcore to just being a challenging game, and it shows. A lot of the levels here are replayable as well, except the story missions, because you know, Schaefer. But pretty much I don't see anything bad with this rundown apart from its simplicity, but that would be me just being nitpicky about certain things. But yeah, level wise, a lot of the things are really fun. Like lots of the levels are really fun. They all got their own little gimmick. And yeah, I could go and talk about bugs and how Scattergun is broken, but I think we already know that. You know, we already know back damage is broken. You cannot reliably backshot chargers, or you cannot really body shot strikers well enough. And it just, there's a bunch of set of bugs that makes the gameplay flow inconsistent, and it hurts the game. But they say they're gonna fix it. I hope. You already know these developers, you know, they tend to lie a little bit. So yeah, thank you for watching.